رئيس الجمهورية.
His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is walking into the hall to a standing ovation by the audience. Please sit down, please take your seats. The President is telling them. Your Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, ladies and gentlemen, dear audience, let me welcome you all to the session dubbed Ask the President. Initially, on my behalf and on behalf of all the audience, let me offer our heartfelt thanks to Your Excellency for your keen interest in attending such sessions and answering the questions posed by the general public. And Your Excellency has all been keenly interested and have been known that being for your interest in answering the questions and coming closer to your people. The Ask the President session was launched for the first time in April 2017. Actually, Ask the President sessions have been introduced ever since April 2017 at the Ismailia Suez Canal Governorate. This session has ever since been introduced in order to help open channels of communication between the general public, between the youth, between everyone having logged to the site to the site of the youth conference to answer all questions on all topics and all issues. Today's session, Your Excellency, is the 6th version of the conference, and as usual, the organizing committee has received Your Excellency's questions. Actually, the questions received amount to 564,000 questions. 564,000 questions have been received by the organizing committee. Of course, these questions have been shortlisted, excluding, of course, repeated questions and questions thought of as not that important or not about important matters, and these questions are in a minute going to be presented to His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in order to be answered by His Excellency. The questions is covering a great deal of dimensions. Social dimensions has been given priority by people who made the questions. Then the economic reform axis or the economic reform issues, and then the political, and then security issues. So 4 important issues, ladies and gentlemen, are being covered by these questions. Men are accounting for 81% of those who made the questions, while 60-something while the women do account for a much less percentage. As for women's participation, well, actually, women from the Red Sea Governorate have accounted for the highest rate of people of the audience making questions. And as for the age bracket, asking most of the questions range from 31 to 50 years of age. Then from 40 to accounting for 20%, 24 to 30 age accounting for 20% only, and then 11% for younger. according to participation classified by profession. The private sector, free enterprises account for most of the questions. Then participation made by students as well as university teaching staff and scientific research, and then public sector, and then unemployed and the public sector, and then retired people. Among the questions, how to get news information, social communication, social media accounted for 40% of sources for those people to get their own information, to know what's going on around them, the newspapers and then radio. These have been the necessary biostatistics important for, so let's review together with Your Excellency, Mr. President, these questions. Initially, let's start with politics. As some people are so eagerly interested in order to broaden political participation, they have been wondering from, for example, from Abdel Sattar Ali, from his 37 years of age, he's asking a question. He belongs to Upper Egypt's Kenna Governorate. He's asking Your Excellency that most of the daunting files, political files, have been surmounted, have been tackled with. And Dr. Ali Abdullah, the Speaker of Parliament, has already drafted the public work law. Tawfiq Mahmoud from Giza Governorate, he's aged 41 years. He's wondering about the delay of issuing the law on local government law. On the Senate issue, proposed Senate issue, will youth be given access to the appointment members to the Senate? In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Most Merciful, let me start talking by addressing all the Egyptian people. Let me first of all pay tribute to all Egyptians. And let me tell them that the conference as a platform for communication with all Egyptians in general and with young people in particular, the conference was originally planned to take place every 2 months or 3 months to hold this conference. Actually, the conference was planned to be held every 2 or 3 months, but in fact, in the light of obligations as well as the accomplishments and the magnitude of activities which the state has embarked on, as well as Egypt's presidential term of the African Union, actually have delayed the holding. But I think after this year we are going to hold this conference more often than that. I'd like everyone who is listening to me that, of course, the context in which I'm answering questions is not intended to answer a particular question posed to me in detail, in such a detailed approach. But my approach is to clarify the matter we are receiving a question about. We're talking about local government law. The local governments have been doing a broad role in achieving targets, and since 2011 the local government has been frozen, has been placed on the freeze. No local government elections have been held since 2011. When we are talking the importance of local government, we're not talking about the local government in Egypt alone, but we're talking about the local government as an important tool, important means across the world. The local government is assigned with an immense, huge role But regardless of the delayed elections of the local government, we'd like to know whether the local government system is effective enough or not. Yesterday I talked about this. Any building set up beyond the scope or any infringement on the government land, all these trespasses or infringements, all these duly fall within the scope of the authority of the local government of the concerned area, of the concerned region. All these have to do with the local government, have to do with how effective the local government is. So we have seen, as we have all seen, the local government has a broad scope of work to take care of. So we should have tackled the issue of local government since 2014 ascendingly. And you must have heard me talking to Parliament, the Speaker, about this. What I'm saying is that the government is supposed to offer a law on the local government in the forthcoming session of Parliament. So the law, during which the law will be debated thoroughly by Parliament members, then local government elections will be held later. We're talking about more than 50,000 people, representatives of local governments. So we do hope that young people, youth, will be accounting for the larger swath of those to be elected, of those 50,000 local government representatives to be elected across the nation. This is what is expected. So if the local government elections are going to spawn members of local governments governing every town, every city in Egypt, at least out of those 50,000 people, members of local government to be elected, out of them 12 or 13,000 must be young people. Young people must account for something like 12 to 13,000 of local government. Well, local government elections, local government facilities, facilities have all been branded as corrupt or branded as whatever you want to brand them. Yes, but I'm proposing to Dr. Ali Abdel Al, the Speaker of Parliament, that this law be thoroughly debated. And by the end of the year, we do hope that by the end of this year, by the end of this year, 2019, we do hope we will have already drafted the local government. This could be the answer, brief answer to your question. In every governorate, according to neighborhoods to which this governorate is divided, let me talk about briefly about the performance, how effective the performance of local government members on the level of every town council or city council. I'd like when describing the effective role, how effective the role of local governments, I'd like to thoroughly choose my own words to be as much disciplined as possible. If I'm going to choose discipline, such a disciplined word to describe how effective the performance of local government is, I have to say that local government members have been, local government representation have been lacking, mostly lacking. Effectiveness have been lacking in every town and every city council. Well, This is because either the law is not precise or does not allocate or does not assign roles to who does what. But however, the law is good, it's not bad, it's not that bad. So it's our performance as local government representatives who are to blame for this corruption, rampant corruption. For example, one local quarry for extracting stones or marble has been trespassing on land. The local government representation or representative council of the local government should have submitted one single report to the government on the trespassing or the infringements of this quarry. This quarry, for this one single infringement on the state's land, has cost the state 35,000 Egyptian pounds. So we do hope that this year we do hope to take the first serious and earnest action. Actually, the government has been working on this law because this law has long been there, and we are working to amend it. Parliament has been undertaking a vast, immense role towards amending rules, because the parliament has been assigned with a lot of work of amending laws and regulations. The immense magnitude of changing laws, of amending laws and regulations, and a huge amount of laws are being undertaken by Parliament, with every ministry, every authority trying as much as possible to push Parliament to have its law amended first, to have its proposed new law amended first. But however, we are working hard we are interested that all these amendments to be introduced into older existing laws be as much consistent with the Constitution as possible. We do hope that by the end of this year we'll have completed all these. There has been another question on the local. There has been a question on the Senate, on the proposed Senate. Will young people have unrestricted access to Senate, the new proposed upper chamber of Parliament to be set up later this year? Well, let's not talk about appointing young people as the question is posing. Let's talk about having those young people to Senate through elections rather than appointing them. Parliament has always been there, and local government has been there. It's not exclusively limited to Senate. Another question is dealing with oil prices. As oil prices have been soaring regionally. A gentleman from Cairo is asking about the impact of soaring petroleum oil prices globally on the Egyptian state. So there have been some predictions that this is going to badly impact the Egyptian state. Yes, the president is answering, this is true. We have been talking about the fact that the state has been dealing with a lot of issues, but most of these issues are not declared. due to some national security considerations. Yes, of course, we have to deal with all issues. Some of these issues are being made public. All the public should know about them through the media, through whatever means is possible. But some other issues are kept confidential for the interest of national security of the country. If you talking about butane gas cylinders, until 3 years ago, we used to have a shortage, a crisis of butane gas cylinders. When studying the issue, we have found out that our reserves of butane gas cannot or couldn't meet the needs or requirements of the general public. So, because of gale storms, we import butane gas cylinders, butane gas liquefied, which remain on aboard vessels, importing vessels anchoring at the port or the harbor, and is not loaded into facilities, petroleum facilities, to be filled into cylinders, sometimes because of gale storms and for some other times for some other reasons. So you must have noticed that so far no problem has occurred because we have managed it. We've managed it to find ways for importing and for emptying this imported natural gas into cylinders on due time. Let's talk about talking petroleum. We have to talk about the global demand for oil and the magnitude of international trade. And this is actually what determines the amount of demand for petroleum, for oil in general. As a country, as a state, the budget we are working on according to the budget we are working on, we have managed to draw up our budget, taking into consideration that a barrel of oil is priced at $68 US. So, but however, we have to work to ensure as much amount of petroleum or oil of our needs, but still within the scope of $68 US per barrel. But however, sometimes the price for oil per barrel sometimes edges up to $68 to $69 or even $70 per barrel. But however, in which case we have to ensure our needs within the $68 per barrel limit, and this has been burdening us. Of course, prices are predicted to soar further. They are not going to be curtailed or to reduce. There will be offers, of course, and of course we have. That's why we have all been calling for regional stability, not just to keep oil prices stable to meet public needs of oil and petroleum derivatives, but for the political stability, the very welfare of the region. Oil has been abounds in some neighboring countries which have been gripped by crises for a long period of time. I don't want to speak lengthily to answer the question in detail. I feel sometimes I do feel a prick of conscience. I do feel the prick of conscience in answering the question in more details. As a human being and as a president as well. Let's say that the reaction to any crisis the reaction by certain troops or what? These troops, let's talk more frankly, if we are talking about tens of thousands of missiles, what reaction could Israel take in this case? I've been talking about this with officials, with senior officials, about how volatile the situation has been in the region. So the reaction would be so violent, action and drawing and prompting another reaction. Both of them are violent. What result could these action and reaction could lead us to? And how troops are going to react? We have seen what is going on for some time. It has been going on in Yemen. I'm not here talking about a capability or capacity of action being wielded by countries, parties to the conflict. Actually, all parties to the conflict are wielding huge capabilities, and even the United States itself has huge capabilities. Actually, we do hope that the region does remain stable, not only for keeping stable the prices of oil, but because any regional stability is likely to touch off further volatility in the region, spilling over to all countries of the region and the entire world, bringing about bad consequences to all regional countries. And here in the region, we have been working hard to hammer out solutions away from military options. We have always said that we want solutions while keeping intact all the consistent, invariable principles of Arab national security. So we do hope, Mr. President, that everyone will be coming back to his own senses, and the situation will not further develop. Another question on the economic reform and the role of the media about this. Mahmoud Isam al-Nahas, who is aged 24 years, with success achieved by economic reforms in Egypt, and with some international institutions praising the handling of Egypt of economic reforms. What does the country? How is the state is going to plan for the state-owned media or the privately owned media like the television? Let me talk first about economic reforms. By the end of this year, we'll have completed an entire phase which we have been undergoing for some time. We have already scored success by introducing this first tier or phase of economic reforms, and we have to pay tribute to the Egyptian people for having patiently endured such economic reforms. Because Egypt has put in place an economic reform plan, and we're implementing. But this should not be interpreted as economic reforms as having been complete by the end of this year, because the process will be going on and on. Things will not come to a stop, will not come to a halt. Otherwise, what we see about the country, in all sectors we are talking about, even the sector of the media, we're talking about what has happened. Things have come, have ground, things have ground to stand still. Have ground to stand still for years, even including the media sector. So the media sector has come to a halt, to a standstill, and the media messages do not anymore give the required impact on the public. As I've said today, well, when I have said today that what happened, what occurred in 2011 has demonstrated that a crisis, a deeper crisis, had been brewing over before 2011, and then this crisis, which had been brewing, came suddenly to a fore, exploding to our faces. So actually, we don't want to defame or tarnish the reputation of anyone. This is an entire system. Is the economic system governing the media, is it financially correct? We have been talking about the media as costing billions. What about the content? This is the economic aspect of the media. What about the technical content of the media? Are the media, a few long years ago, in the 50s and the 60s, the media used to wield a huge impact due to certain circumstances linked to these general circumstances prevailing over the region, over Egypt at the time, in the 50s and 60s. However, other countries, including Arab countries, have made longer strides, but as Egyptians, we have remained standstill. Most of us are not satisfied with the media, and the content of the media have not been satisfactory to anyone, satisfying to anyone. As people concerned with the media, we have to think about this. Some countries, such as the United States and India, do earn a lot of money, earn a lot of money, a lot of earnings, do make a lot of earnings out of cinema films or television films. Actually, this is a form of presenting your country to the world. You must have noticed that today we have been lending full support to young media people, and we have been supporting youth in general. We have been encouraging them to talk more frankly without fearing anything. I'm not going to promise you with anything on this issue of the media. We have already started to tackle the content of the media, and we do hope that within the 2 or 3 coming years, our media content would be much better than it is today. Because actually we have to know as well, we have to take into account that the media will are not anymore the best way of getting to know about things. In recent years, there have been other media outlets with which we have to be concerned in order to keep abreast of our age. I'm saying again that within the next 2 or 3 years we are going to perform better, and we are going to be at a better position than where we are now in compliance with the industry prevailing. We are working on facilities, a magnitude of facilities, which could be classified as cultural facilities or cultural institutions like the ones we have seen here. By the end of this year, or at most by the beginning of next year, we'll be seeing a similar copy of these facilities cropping up here in the new administrative capital and at Al Alamein, new city, such as the huge Grand Museum to be set up or being set up on the Giza outskirts. On the media, you will find that we'll be moving in the next few months. In a way, I'm not saying that this way would be much to your happiness or much to your satisfaction, but will not be sparing any efforts during the next 2 or 3 years. You have tackled the cultural issue. We have received a question from Mr. Ahmed Mohammed from Cairo. He's aged 32. He is saying that in recent years, the state has been doing immense efforts. He's talking about what he terms as the lack of cultural interest by the state, because he's a young publisher of books. He's claiming that the country still does lack a lot of interest in culture and promoting education and culture. Well, I don't want to repeat what you have said in the morning. I've said, to be clear, to be candid, and to be objective, I've said that all sectors of the Egyptian state have been feeling unwell, so to speak, and the takeoff, the real, genuine takeoff for all sectors of the government, have started to recover. I'm not saying since I assumed power, but because I'm here, but in recent years, we have seen recovery in all sectors of the government, all sectors of the state. Cultural sector has been allocated a huge amount of money in order to help upgrade culture and to build a number of new theaters. I'd like to say this is an effort being conducted by the state. But the point asked about but we still need coordination among education, youth, and even the media. We need more concerted efforts, more coordination has to be done among these sectors, the sector of education, the sector of culture, the sector of the media. These important 3 sectors have to see more concerted action, more concerted work among themselves. We have Al-Manara Theatre, which is located along Field Marshal Tantawi Avenue Highway on the outskirts of Cairo. Actually, what we really needed is genuine willingness by personnel working in these sectors. They have demonstrated willingness to improve the work. We, as building facilities, in as much as building facilities is concerned, I'm telling you, I'm promising you that we are now building the world's biggest and largest media facility in the world here, and it's a good opportunity, an ample opportunity that you are now here in the new administrative city. We are building here the world's largest set of museums, the the world's largest theaters and cinemas are being built, are being set up here in the new administrative city. We are very much concerned with whatever having to do with Egyptian culture and Egyptian heritage. Until 2020, we are planning to stage a strong takeoff in a way that will be noticeable to everyone. I'm insisting that we have been racing against time. I'm not saying so because I want to praise the government, but we have had to tackle, we have been much delayed. Our drive towards progress in all sectors has been much delayed, and we have been working harder and harder on all sectors. For example, talking about the sector of power, electric power, for example. When we started to reform, to thoroughly overhaul the sector of electric power, we found out the cost would be huge, would be immense. Dr. Shaker, the Minister of Power and New Energy, is sitting with us here. Dr. Shaker is renowned, celebrated, is not just a minister, is a renowned scientist in his area of electric power. Most of the ministers, all ministers, are not just officials or senior officials, but they are big senior scientists in their own areas of knowledge. However, we are still falling short of ambitions, of required ambitions. I'm telling everyone that by mid of next year, you can bring us to account as to new things, new facilities cropping up. Talking about culture, for example. Well, talking about culture, you can't say that you can't say that we are going to push buttons in order to achieve or accomplish this or that in the area of culture. No, even if this is possible. Of course, this is possible by making concerted efforts among all of us. When I'm telling, for example, we can assign some authority or some agency to sort out some young people and to scout for talented young people and select them for example, if we would like to form a football team, we have to scout for talented people, talented young players. I'm not sure whether the Minister of Sports and Youth is present or not. He's present, of course. I'm telling the Minister of Sports and I'm telling the Minister of Sports and Young People, you have to select, you have to scout for young talents, and you have to train these people and qualify and groom them to be good players. And then you have to monitor, to keep following up on what you have achieved. You can't say that you can't select or you can't find 1,000 Egyptian young people, and then out of those 1,000 young people, you select some good people to be good players, good football players to represent your own country. No, we have, but we need to do some immense efforts in order to select and scout for talented people and then start to train them, provide them with all necessary opportunities to be good football players. I don't want to branch our talk to branch out into unnecessary topics, but whatever you need is present, is existing in Egypt. You have to find people and train them. Since you touched on the issue of sports, so we have received a question on sports from Giza Governorate. He's asking you, what's in your opinion, Mr. President, the best way to train or to develop, improve the conditions of sports? What are the mechanisms you have supposedly placed or put in place in order to sort out talents and scout for talents and train them? You have said half the question. You have talked about individual sports and football. On the other, compared them with collective sports, which we do attach importance, of course. However, football in Egypt has been the most popular game, loved by all people. But however, football has been unstable. We must have seen what has been going on football pitches and how it does impact the audience. Football is not anymore. It is not anymore a matter of only talent or being amateurish activity or an activity governed by amateurs. No, football worldwide has become an important industry across the world. Football is an industry which has its own components. Players, money, clubs and everything. We have to reform all these here. I've said this before years ago, and these days I have said so with Dr. Ashraf, the Minister of Sports and Youth People, and when I presided a meeting with the Minister of Sports and His Excellency the Prime Minister. People have been asking when does the state allow the public or spectators to attend again football matches. Of course, we all know that football matches now, spectators are not allowed access to watch football matches. So we have to be prepared for this first. We have organized the African Tournament Cup, and the organization has been commended as being splendid. But we want spectators to come to playgrounds, to football matches in a more disciplined way, rather than in a rioting way, much to not to the welfare of security, much to the detriment of security. So we want disciplined spectators to come back again to football pitches and playgrounds. We have been doing hard work in order to discipline security, for more discipline, ensure discipline security and heightened security at playgrounds and football pitches. I think spectators coming back to watch football matches has become easier than before. But however, the matter is left to be decided on by the Ministry of Sports and Youth on the one hand, as well as security agencies on the other. The security agencies and the Ministry of Sports have to decide on the coming back of spectators to football pitches to watch football matches. However, it remains to be said that we've said that are we going to bring in foreign trainers, foreign coaches from abroad again, or what? The President is no, we are not going to bring in foreign coaches to train our people.
المدربين يعني احنا ليه ما عندناش ثقه
We should have confidence in our local trainers, local football coaches. We are not going to hire any more foreign coaches. When I asked the Minister of Sports, he said, "Well, no, Mr. President, we are not going to hire foreign coaches again." However, because I'm expecting the result to be the same, whether we get a foreign one or a local one. Of course, yes, Mr. President, the announcer is saying with a local coach the result will be much better, Mr. President. The result will be the same again. The President is laughing and smiling, saying that the result, whether we got a foreign coach, football coach or a local one, the result will be the same. We shouldn't resort to compliments on any issue. This will be tiresome. We have to be objective when deciding on any issue. Well, we shouldn't do this or do that or selecting this person out of courtesy. This will not be leading to any success in culture, arts, in poetry, in music. With all respect to the diva of with Arabic singer Kulthum, with all respect, I'm not favoring this. Actually, we shouldn't expect younger generations to be as perfectly copying the diva of Egyptian singing Kulthum. According to the theory of probabilities, anyone should who thinks of himself as being capable should come forward and should be given the opportunity. Otherwise, he will remain hidden, remain in the rough, like a diamond in the rough. We have to scout for the smart ones, for the intelligent ones, in sports, in mathematics, in all sectors of the country. We have to be objective. We have to remain blindfolded when selecting. We have to select people according to certain criteria, to certain standards, blindfoldedly, rather than selecting out of favor or out of doing compliment to that one or this one. We should give up, we should relinquish apathy, we should select apathy. You can't hire a football player who's not efficient or good enough at football. Of course, you should not misunderstand my talk. I respect every player and respect everyone. It's not what I'm saying is not intended to be compliment to you all. No. If we are going to start from scratch, we have to start from scratch in all sectors, in all areas of activities. So, I've been answering. Have I been answering the question lengthily? At the previous conference held at Cairo University, you said that schools and universities schools have to have their own playgrounds, theaters, and so on. These theaters and playgrounds, as Your Excellency have said, will be good platforms for scouting for talents. Yes, we have seen activities being conducted at universities, but they haven't been earnest or serious enough to scout for talented people. They haven't been up to the standard of selecting or scouting for good talented people. Do you think that whenever I give instructions or give directives that concerned people will be doing as being directed or as being instructed? No. We just give instructions, and then these instructions will be applauded and giving good clap by people. But in order to turn these recommendations or these instructions into executive regulations and executive action to be implemented on the ground, this is bound to take much longer time. So I'm not giving these instructions today to take care of good talented people and say the other day that universities are busy setting up their own theaters in order to scout for talents because I have said so. A student from Cairo is wondering about Your Excellency's vision on the Mediterranean Sea, which has been plagued recently by disputes and conflicts. How do you see the situation on the Mediterranean? 2 or 3 days ago, we've held a meeting with countries which are members of the Eastern Mediterranean region. And this, of course, reflects the prestigious position achieved by Egypt on this, in view of the huge resources and facilities dealing with natural gas, either in terms of liquefaction of gas, natural gas, or digging or drilling for gas, natural gas, and collaboration with Eastern Mediterranean nations. We've said at the meeting, we told them that we are meeting in order to benefit from other people's talk. This could give us an opportunity for others to exploit or tap this opportunity, particularly by people who have no pipelines or so. I've spotted here the Minister of Petroleum. How many natural gas finds have been made so far? Please sit down. Recently, we have come across natural gas finds, but not, of course, up to the high level of the natural gas field of Dhuhr. These new natural gas finds are expected to meet demands for natural gas, either by local individuals, by the domestic market of Egypt, or by industry, by local industry as well. Of course, major powers, major players at the Mediterranean were expected to be locked up, to be embroiled in conflict or dispute. The demarcation of maritime boundaries, which have done with Cyprus, with Saudi Arabia, have contributed to this, because new zones for natural gas discovery have been available. We wouldn't have done drilling for natural gas at these areas of the Mediterranean or the Red Sea had it not been for the imperative demarcation of our maritime boundaries with Saudi Arabia or with Cyprus,
سواء كان
and even with other countries which are not members. We can cooperate, further cooperate and collaborate with other countries in order to enhance and strengthen, reinforce our natural resources. And God willing, with the help of God, with the help of Allah, we are going to do our utmost effort in order to increase our output, our production, in order to provide more resources. What I can say to our son who has made the question, that we have been doing smoothly, have been doing very well in these two twin areas of natural gas and petroleum. We have almost resolved the problems we used to face in the area of natural gas, either of meeting our local requirements or for exporting natural gas as well. And we do hope in the area of petroleum or petrol, we do hope to have the same track of success.
سيادة الرئيس، هل حضرتك
Your Excellency, the President, do you expect
موضوعات ممكن يسأل فيها سؤال أو أكثر ولم تجد هذه الأسئلة؟
have you expected to see some question to be asked about certain issues, but still you haven't received any questions on these?
فممكن يكون غطوا كل ما نحن اليوم.
They may have covered all issues. However,
احنا اتصور عشان كده كان بدايه كلمتي
I perceive, that's why when I started our address at the meeting, that the conference,
نتكلم مع بعض
the proceedings of the conference provide an ample opportunity for each one of us to listen to each other
وعي.
and to raise awareness among our younger generations of what's going on the level of politics or economy or whatever. Mr. President, Your Excellency, as was said, this is the sixth Ask the President session. At the fifth session of Ask the President,
مفيش مرة أنا سألته وأنت تجاوب، ومن هذا المنطلق
you have said, you were quoted at the fifth session as saying that every time you asked me as president, why don't you let me ask you as president and you answer?
يعني إحنا نتابع معا هذا الفيديو.
I'm asking you all to watch the following video, which covers the 4 or 5 times in which the president is wondering why you keep asking me as president. Why don't you give me the opportunity as president to ask you as the audience or people?
يعني السؤال ده يعني مناسب يعني
بالنسبه لنا لا انا مش هيبقى شيء مسؤوليه 25 مسؤوليه بس
طبعا لو بقيت رئيس جمهوريه ده من المستقبل الامر سيء.
استاذنك بس اخد نفس الاول لان موقف صعب. مش هبقى رئيس جمهوريه.
The announcer is vox popping ordinary average people about what they do or what they would do if each one of them becomes president of the country. Some say I'm going to eliminate terrorism. Someone answered by saying that I can't be responsible for myself alone, let alone being responsible for a huge population like that of Egypt.
المجالس المحليه تشتغل.
Some of them saying that I'm going to prompt local government councils to work again. Some others, we are going to exterminate terrorism. Some ladies are saying that we should bring about, if we become president, we should bring down prices so that average and impoverished people
ده لازم
could live,
خطوات كثيره يعني.
قولي خطوة منها.
to make life easier for them.
أعمل مستشفى ومدارس.
I'm going to, if I became president, I'm going to build hospitals and build schools.
هيرخص الحاجه.
اخلي ميزانيه الدوله في التعليم اكبر من كده كتير.
I'm going to allocate more resources, financial resources to the area of education.
هم نفس المدرس يخرج بره
And to
الصندوق عشان
raise
يزرع جوه الطالب القصه دي.
انزل تفتيش على كل المدارس.
I should inspect if I became president. If I became president, the lady is saying, if I became president, I should go down to schools and ask pupils and students where exactly is your homework. What have you done about your homework, school homework?
لعيل صغير فلازم تأسسيه صح.
لازم الواحد يركز قوي على الانتاج، والانتاج ده بيجيب طبعا عمله صعبه، والعمله الصعبه بتخليني انا اعمل مشاريع.
خلي اللي عنده مشروع دعموه ان هو يشتغل، لان واحد هيشغل معاه 2 وواحد هيشغل معاه 3 وواحد هيشغل معاه 4 مش هيبقى فيه بطاله.
لازم المجالس المحليه بالذات تبقى بالتخيل. لو المجلس المحلي صلح الدوله
Some people seem to be concentrating on activating local government councils because it's these councils which will be in charge of affairs.
نقف جنب الفقير ان هو ياخد الارض.
هصلح سكه الحديد لازم. المترو معقول بس ممكن اوفر اتوبيسات وباصات اكتر عشان العدد فعلا زياده عن حده، يعني 100 مليون كتير مش قليل.
هحاول اعمل اعاده تدوير المخلفات.
If I became president, I may try
ما يبقاش
to recycle waste.
ابهات يعني شايلين مسؤوليات عيالنا بالعافيه.
As fathers,
بالك بقى من اب شايل مسؤوليه ابهات كتير.
as a single father, I feel responsible. I feel like shouldering a huge responsibility for my children. What about shouldering responsibility of a lot of fathers like the president?
يعني المواطن البسيط ما كانش بعيد عن الفهم لما اتكلم في التعليم.
So you must have noticed from the video that average people have been monitoring everything, every issue of interest to the state, like fighting terror, as well as appropriating more resources to the area of education. So they are very good people. They have been following. They have formed good public opinion about public affairs.
واخد من الحكومه واخد مننا، وانا مش بقوله يعني ده حقيقي، ده موضوع واخد مننا.
This is real.
والدكتور مصطفى يصلح لي. احنا حجم
May Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, the Prime Minister, correct me if I'm wrong.
اللي بناخدها في جمع المخلفات حوالي 800 مليون.
We've been spending about nearly 800 million Egyptian pounds in collecting garbage.
لما جينا وزارة البيئة موجودة. طيب لما جينا نتكلم في الموضوع دوت ونشتغل.
When we wanted to talk about this and work on it.
يعني إذا كنت بتكلم على القبح.
If I'm talking about.
في الأرض ده قبح.
If I'm talking about ugliness, well, if a waste paper is strewn across the ground is a form of ugliness.
الرقم المطلوب ليه حوالي 380 مش كده يا
فندم؟ We need 380 million Egyptian pounds to clean a single neighborhood of Cairo. A single neighborhood of Cairo needs 380 million Egyptian pounds to be cleaned thoroughly, to be cleaned perfectly.
ما نقدرش نطالب الناس دلوقتي في ظل الواقع اللي احنا موجودين فيه ان احنا نطلب منهم حاجه، لكن على الاقل نوري الجهد اللي موجود اتعمل وبقت في نتيجه.
However, we have to show people that a lot of effort have been made.
يبقى في موارد. انا قلت على القاهره بس.
I've talked about Cairo alone.
بجمع 800 مليون جنيه، والدكتور شاكر لما جينا نقول له نحط على الفاتوره بتاعتك حاجه للمخلفات يقول لك لو سمحت ما تحطش كفايه الفاتوره كبيره، ولو سمحت ما تقربوش مني بقى.
When we approached Dr. Shakir, the Minister of Electricity, to burden electric bills with fees for cleaning the streets, he said, oh please keep away from my electric power bill because people have been have been grieving, have been complaining loudly about the bills of electricity. Rather than, so we can't bother them with more fees being levied on electric bills for cleaning the streets or neighborhoods.
فبقى الانطباع ان فاتوره الكهرباء ب 30 لكن هي مش كده. ارجع تاني للموضوع ده
Let me come back to the issue.
يمكن انت ما كلمتوش عليه لكن انا هاخد كل اللي قالوه الزملاء كنقاط واقول باختصار يعني على موضوع زي ده.
Let me talk about a single issue like this.
تعمل ده. طب سؤال.
Another question.
اللي بيتكلم على المخلفات. تفتكر
talking about waste.
الدولة المصرية لل 100 مليون والمصانع والكلام ده الرقم كام؟
How much do you think is the magnitude of the amount of the Egyptian state's amount of garbage? I'm telling you.
26 مليون مش كده؟ 26 مليون طن في السنة.
The Egyptian state produces or spawns 26 million tons of garbage every year. This is a huge amount, a huge magnitude of garbage.
وما تطورتش مع تطور الحياة ثم
So
هذه الصناعة أو هذه الخدمة
this cleaning service has been of course badly impacted, has been affected. We need a more modernized, a more modern system for collecting garbage. We have to think out of the box solutions. Things have been overlapping. If I do remember the figure, the entire Egyptian state costs more than 10 billion Egyptian pounds. 10 billion Egyptian pounds. 10 billion Egyptian pounds. This is supposing that we have successfully managed to introduce a new system for collecting garbage. It would be costing us 10 billion Egyptian pounds. And in which case we have to wait for 2 years to see the results being kept away. So
وده دور الإعلام اللي هو المتخصصين اللي بيتكلموا في الموضوع يكون عندهم معرفة وعندهم بيانات.
That's why everyone who is specialized in a certain area should be armed with information, precise information, to be able to convince the public. We have again industrial waste. Well, a lot of people have been working, a lot of experts have been working on industrial waste.
ده موضوع زي المخلفات احنا شغالين فيه بنتكلم عشان نحله. إذا كان المطلوب فلوس فقط احنا بنتكلم في 10 مليار. بقول رقم.
If what's required is only money, we need 10 billion Egyptian pounds.
وزمايلنا اللي موجودين في بيسمعوني يحفظوا بيتكلموا عن التعليم.
You've been talking about education.
قبل الجلسة الختامية دي.
And the final session, Dr. Tariq, the Minister of Education, was present, and we talked to him. We told Dr. Tariq told us that we need 250,000 classes in order to reduce pupil and student density in school classes. Of course, this needs a lot of money. Those in charge of education in Egypt, those in charge, do we pay? We have also to ask ourselves: do we pay decent pay? Do we decently pay those in charge of education in Egypt? Do we pay them decently? Do we pay those in charge of education, people like teachers, instructors, and so on? Yes. People will wonder, you already know, Mr. President, about how indecent the payment or the salary or the wage of teachers and instructors. Yes, I know. I know that people need to be paid more lavishly in order to give quality education as teachers or as instructors. And of course, I already know that we need more money in order to improve and upgrade the health care system.
طب وانت
By the way,
هو الموضوع بينتهي بالفصل. طب ما احنا واحنا قاعدين برضه في الجلسه اللي فاتت كنا بنتكلم على مدارس.
at the previous session we talked about schools.
اكتر من 55,000 مدرسه.
People talked about 55,000 schools.
يعني بشكل أوضح.
Yes, these are all numbers which in order to be implemented at the ground, they need a huge amount of money. In order to upgrade the efficiency of a school, it needs a lot of money to be effective enough. How much do you think we need, how much do you think we need in order to upgrade the effectiveness or the efficiency of our schools?
ال 55,000 مدرسه دول.
Those 55,000 schools, in order to be upgraded, we need a huge amount of money, huge resources, in order to repair desks and to provide educational facilities and so on.
النهارده اي مدرسه
Today, any school or any facility, if it costs 10 Egyptian pounds or certain amount, has to be, even after it costs 10 Egyptian pounds, you have also to allocate more resources in order to maintain these facilities after being set up, in order to keep these facilities in good repair.
بكام بقى؟ يعني لو مدرسه ب 80 مليون جنيه عايز احط لها 2 3 مليون.
So if I build a school at the cost of 80 million Egyptian pounds, we have to allocate 2 to 3 million Egyptian pounds in order to keep this school, which has already been there, has been set up, to keep it in good repair, to keep it well maintained. We have been laboring under delusionary impression about the magnitude of the problem. The state has been doing its utmost within its scope of action, within its scope of resources. We have the Minister of Higher Education with us here. In order to set up universities to be fitting with Egypt's name, that's why we need a lot of money. That's why we have been working hard on twinning Egyptian universities with corresponding international universities. This is not an easy issue. In doing so, we have given the opportunity for the Minister of Education to speak more than one time at a conference of these conferences we have been convening.
هل اهتمام الناس بيبقى مهتم بحدث معين بشخص معين يسمع منه عشان يعرف اللي بيتعمل؟ طب انا عايزكم تروحوا تشوفوا.
I'd like you to go and see
الجامعة المصرية اليابانية.
The Egyptian-Japanese University. As media representative, please go and see the Egyptian-Japanese University or Zwe University or King Salman University at Al-Alamein, at Al-Galala and Al-Alamein regions. When talking about these universities, we should talk tens of billions of Egyptian pounds in order only to attempt a good educational infrastructure. What about operation of these universities? Well, we have also to introduce laws and regulations to govern the track of university staff, university professors, and so on. This is a huge area. We have already started to set up banks for information and banks for examination in order to store examinations as well as examination questions.
عشان تعمل بقى تحول الاختبارات الى اختبارات مميكنه وده الكلام برضه اللي
and in order to convert examinations into fully mechanized
بختبر وقبل ما بقوم بعرف نتيجتي.
Well, in order to turn ordinary, normal examinations into mechanized examinations, we have to do a lot of effort. Under a mechanized mechanized examination. You sit for examination, and before, by the time you finish, you complete your examination, you know the result, whether you've passed or not.
اي شيء بنقترحه حتى
When we propose anything,
مستقبل بشر التعليم
we have to take all these issues. I'd like to say that
العام
public education
والتعليم العالي احنا
and
متحركين.
higher education have been doing well in public education and higher
لو
education.
كانت الامور بتتحل
However, things cannot be resolved
زي ما احنا
such easily.
ما افتكرش كانت الدول كلها بقت
Otherwise,
الوضع اللي هي فيه.
otherwise all countries, other countries of the world would have been more developed than they are.
طب انتوا عايزين يا مصريين تبقوا مع دول؟ ده
You want as Egyptians to be among those people?
ومثابرة ونكران ذات كبير قوي عشان نوصل لده.
We need self-denunciation in order to keep abreast of the
لا، بس في
developed
عدد من
world.
المحاور يعني تطرقنا اليها سواء في اطار
انا بس
الاسئله
منه انتوا
أو
مش انت اللي
الجلسات.
جبت لي الموضوع ده يا رامي.
اتفضل يا
سيبني
فندم.
بقى يا اخي. طيب. النقل. القطاع ده قطاع مهم جدا جدا ويعني لما جينا
This is an important sector, actually, you've mentioned, Mr. Rami. The President is wondering while talking to Rami, the internal announcer, the internal presenter of the interviewer of the President. The sector is the road network. Road network, the President is saying road networks
طب السكة الحديد
is important. Developing railway stations, refurbishing
بنتكلم على مش
dilapidated,
احنا بنتكلم على مئات
ramshackle railways have
انت كمان على الجانب
will be costing a lot more money.
على الانفاق على النقل.
We need to spend more money on transport.
السنة اللي بعدها
I'm also telling you that this next year and the next, the one after next, we'll find that we'll be seeing improvements in all sectors.
خلاص على 30/26 نتمنى ان احنا نكون خلصنا المخطط بتاعها.
We do hope that by the 30th of June in 2020 we will have finished the planned improvements of the railway sector, as well as will have finished, completed the electrification of railway trains. We'll have introduced newer
والسنة اللي بعدها
locomotives and newer train carriages will have been introduced to the sector.
اتفضل.
باذن الله. لا يمكن يعني باقي الموضوعات يا فندم هيتم التطرق اليها سواء في هذه الجلسه
All the other issues have been tackled. And let me assure that everyone sending his question, these questions will be, whether they be in inquiries or demands, will be channeled to all concerned bodies. And within the following days, Mr. President, thank you so much, your President, for your broad-mindedness and for this session. Thank you so much.
ايوه بشكرك يا رامي.
Thank you, Rami.
شخصية جميلة ومحترمة.
You are such a good personality, Rami.
الجيل الجديد اللي
You, Mr. Rami, the President is addressing the presenter, the interviewer, that you represent the new generation. You truly represent the required generation
ما
of
أطلش
Egypt.
عليا، احنا كل مرة بناخد ساعتين وساعتين ونص. رامي رحمني ساعة ونص كفاية.
Oh, you have had the mercy on me, Rami, by limiting the talk to only 2
بس
hours.
خليني أختم كلامي
Let me finish by saying to you that
دي مش رسالة أمل يعني.
this is not, what I'm not going to say is not a message of hope or to raise your morale. No.
حجم العمل
The magnitude of work being done, being conducted by the state. Well, in order to know the magnitude of what we have achieved, you have to look back, you have to look at years back to know where exactly we stood. We have done a lot of work, we have done a lot of accomplishments in terms of years of work. Our efforts, in terms of effort done, the effort done has been unprecedented. We have done a great effort. not only done by the government, but for us all.
الحكومه والموظفين الموجودين في كل حته. ايوه الدوله الناس هي اللي بتشتغل، وعايز اقول لهم ان انتوا كل
I have to tell you that
بتشتكوا او
when we find, I'm telling everyone, the more you are willing to air grievances or to make complaints, working harder and harder.
يطول لسانه عليكم ما تردوش عليه.
If anyone insults any one of you, don't respond to him, but just work harder and harder. If anyone conspires against any one of you, don't waste your time responding or answering him. Just work harder and harder. I need your support, the President is telling the audience. Let me tell you something before I finish.
تصوروا
Imagine
انا مش لاقي وقت
I have
امتحان
I have no time
والله العظيم
to open new facilities that will make you
احنا
happier.
لاقيين وقت لافتتاحات لمشروعات.
We have no time. I have no time as president to inaugurate new projects that are likely to make presidents to make people happier. Even to the extent that I'm telling people, my colleagues, I'm willing to open new projects on Friday. So by the time people will be coming from prayers at noon, we'll find new facilities open for them. Thank you, Mr. Rami. Thank you, Mr. President.
الحضور الكريم أرجو التزام المقاعد.